Importantly, we have been able to meet and talk to the parents and the teachers and the management, and even to meet the children who will be transitioning from primary grade 6 to the junior secondary school grade 7 in 2023, alongside with the ones who are transitioning from standard 8 to go to form 1. The important thing about why we are here today is that we have this partnership in place between private schools and public schools under the Ministry of Education. And partnership between private and the public is not a new thing. And therefore, we are just doing the right thing to do, to partner with the private schools so that they can create spaces for the Kenyan children. Traditionally, children from private primary schools would transition into public schools. But with the CBC, the private schools have been given that opportunity to create space for grade 7, 8, and 9, which is junior secondary school. And it makes a lot of sense because these children in the outgoing system, they would otherwise have continued in standard 7 and 8. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense to have that partnership where children at that age in their lives can continue in the same school culture that they have been used to. As you can see, we have just launched a grade 7 classroom for transition in 2023. A couple of weeks ago, I was here and launched the lab. The lab is the most basic requirement for transition to junior secondary school. And the reason is secondary education must be understood as secondary education. We've been hearing people saying, why doesn't this class remain in primary? It cannot, because the curriculum is designed for secondary school with the sciences as we know them, biology, chemistry, and physics. And therefore, keeping them in primary school would mean we build labs in over 23,000 primary schools, while the secondary schools already have labs. So the private schools have been busy, after the minister opened up that space, they have been busy building particularly the labs so that we can be sure in 2023 the teaching will be successful. And in this particular school, I launched that. The classroom we've already launched is now compliant because the CBC classroom is not just an ordinary classroom. It has its own features, and the private schools in Kirinyaga Central have complied in terms of labs, in terms of classrooms, and they are already registered and on the NEC portal. And the first to be certified was this particular school. And we have given him the certificate from the Ministry of Education. The parents witnessed, and they are free. I think they are waiting now to start selecting where their children will go in 2023. And going by the trend we are seeing here, the response from private school has been very, very positive. And we believe now we shall not be having to worry so much about the spaces. The parents are more comfortable in keeping children in the same school culture. Thank you. In this particular school, nationally, we are expecting to have 1.26 million in junior secondary schools. And if you have been following very closely, you will notice that the first focus was in actually creating infrastructure in the public schools before even the primary schools came in. And we've been doing that since January. We had 2 phases of classrooms, and the second phase is almost complete. And these classrooms were being constructed in secondary schools that did not have enough space. And the public needs to understand that before identifying where to build these classrooms, survey was done, data was collected to confirm exactly which schools deserve to have classrooms. And it was discovered that we do have many secondary schools that had classrooms. Some of them, many classrooms. I witnessed one that had 10 classrooms, and there are no children in there. So there was no need to build there. However, there were schools that had deficit and others that had just enough. So those classrooms were being built, first of all, in schools that had deficit to bring them at a par, which we call equity, being equitable, and the ones that were already having enough to look at the number of streams and give them classrooms, junior secondary school classrooms, that will be equivalent to the number of streams. And the ones that had been lifted up from having a deficit, looking at the stream, if it's one stream, they get a classroom. If it's two streams, they get two streams. And therefore, that's where those classrooms were being built. Those who had surplus, they have to make use of that surplus so that we can rationalize how to use government resources adequately and efficiently.
The world is never changed by a mob. There has to be people who will see the vision, move with it, and others will start saying, oh, kumbe ilikuwa mzuri hivyo, kumbe ilikuwa mzuri hivyo. And therefore, I saw some spark in Kirinyaga and specifically in Central. And I think the first time, Mr. Munene, if you're honest, you will say I invited myself. I actually called him and I said, did you say you have built labs there? He said yes. And because we have been trained by Professor Makoha, you believe when you see, I told him I'm coming. When? I think I gave you a day or two. And then you said, hey, you mean Tuesday? I said, yes, I'm coming there. And then after that, I fell in love with the Kirinyaga Central and what I saw good signs. And therefore, I also pledged to myself that we have to work together with this group. Now, let me say something about my style. This is a deliberate attire I wear anytime I go to any educational institution. Very deliberately. I say, if the chief, your local chief was here, angekuwa na uniform yake. If you are, polisi angekuwa nani, county commissioner angekuwa hapa, angekuwa na uniform. Na DCC wake, angekuwa na uniform. So when I go to a place where uniform is the order of the day, and particularly schools, I also wear my uniform. And this uniform, and I hope the children there are listening, it has something to do with successful transition from one level to another. You transition, unatoka primary, wakiingia junior secondary, they have their uniform, I believe. Wakiingia senior, I believe they're wakiingia. University tunaambia wavae tu. But as an educational institution where we need to be role modeling, I always wear this thing. And I'm so happy that I saw the entertainment here of those students.
As 50, 60 private schools, which are established and running, Rakini 25 are the ones which have shown interest. They have written to us, we have gone to their schools, we have assessed them, the County Education Board has sat and sent there a team, verified. They are now on the process of getting their certificates, and they are in the code next system. So when it comes to registration of the private schools, we have cleared all of them. A school which was private, na ilikuwa inataka CPC, tumeregister, tunangojea watoto form 1. We have trained our boards of management in secondary schools and the boards of management in primary schools for CPC. They know their roles, number 1. Number 2, they know what they are supposed to do for the Ministry of Education on CPC by December 31st. You get anybody, they will tell you what they know. So we trained 600 POM members for secondary, 600 POM members for primary. We have also trained head teachers, both primary and secondary. I have also trained the directors of private schools. My campaign has been, the way to go is CPC, and it's the best for everybody in this country.
Private schools play an immense contribution to the growth and development of the education sector, and we are very happy to have you support us in this venture. We want to thank the Ministry of Education and the Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, for the support accorded to private schools so far in the process of registration of junior secondary schools. And I wish to most heartily and specifically appreciate the role that has been played by your department that is responsible for curriculum reforms and implementation. Professor,